What's up, guys? Appreciate you watching this episode of RSG, man. If you may not know, we have just started our Discord channel, man. If you want to be able to sit down with us, have some conversations, have some banter back and forth, come see us.
We have an active channel where you guys can talk with Justin and I regularly, and we have race predictions.
And occasionally on Sunday, you'll be able to speak to Rod and I personally, and also we'll have guests.
And when we drop any announcements or merch, that'll be the first place you can see it.
And we'll also have some lucky fans be able to ask some questions to our guests. So hit the link in the bio.
Justin Gatlin is the latest in a long line of sprint sensations to emerge from the USA.
Gatlin got a good start. Look at this man coming through now. Gatlin. What a fantastic performance from Gatlin. It's all about Gatlin.
Ultimate goal is to be one of the best sprinters in history.
What a fantastic performance from Gatlin, and look at the time.
It's the American leading the Jamaican at the moment.
He knows he is the world champion.
Justin Gatlin is the world champion here in London.
What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of Ready, Set, Go. We in the building. You already know who over here to my left. It is the bearded wonder himself. When you see us in person, that means we have somebody, a special guest that's always going to be sitting with us. And who's our special guest today, Rod?
Man, we have the legendary Coach John Smith, multi-medal producing athlete, Coach John Smith. Welcome to our show, man. How are you?
Well, thank you. It's an honor. You know, I follow you since high school. I tried to recruit it.
Crazy,
Yeah.
Crazy. I was following you through high school. You had Maurice Green,
You know,
John jumping.
He long jumping, running hurdles, whatever it was he had to do.
Long jump, high jump,
everything.
hurdles.
And I'm like, my kind of guy.
The story is told you almost one stayed by yourself, man. That's the story.
Yeah.
You did everything.
Yeah, he did. he and Gail Divas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 32 points, man, all by myself. So running, jumping, do a little swimming too if I could. So
Yeah, I swam too. Yeah.
We gonna start with you are still to this day, probably because they don't run it no more, the world record holder in the 440-yard dash, which is equivalent to 402 meters and change.
no, the 440.
Yeah, that's what I said, the 440-yard dash.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is equivalent to 402 meters.
402 meters.
Yeah, yes.
I know when they converted it, they took 0.3 of a second or 2,400 tenths of a second. So it came to 44, either 24 or 32, depending on who was calculating.
It was 24. But
Was it 24?
Do you
Okay.
remember that race?
Oh, right here. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh, it was
Tell us
here.
about
It
it.
was here in Prefontaine.
No, it
Oregon?
was in our national championships,
Okay.
AAU finals, and I remember it. And the funny thing about it, I hated lane 2.
Why lane 2 out of all the lanes?
Well, here's the thing: when back then, it's luck of the draw, they put our names in the hat, and you had to draw, and I drew lane 2. I'm like,
That's how they pick names. That's how they pick lanes for real.
that was that meat. That's
Okay.
what they did.
Okay.
And I'm like, damn. Now, Fred Newhouse, may he rest in peace, he was in lane 1.
Oh man.
And so I went to one of my mentors, Dr. Leroy Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Doc, I'm in lane 2. He said, okay, yeah. He said, what lane you train in? I said, 1. Okay. What lane you run the relay in? I said, 1. I said, okay. He said, where everybody else? I said, they're all in front of me. I said, just follow them at the 200, switch gears, and come off and hold yourself. And I'm like, okay. And I did that, and I ran. Actually, I could see everybody on the outside. It was like a blur. I was running so fast, I was running by everybody. And I came off and I saw I was in front. So all I did there is said, hold your rhythm. Don't try to do no hero stuff. Hold your rhythm, you got it. You got it. And I just talked to myself all the way down the track. I was very aware of what I was doing. I wound up running. My teammate was over there in lane 7 or 8, and I beat him. And I was leaning down because I didn't see the time.
Yeah.
And he went over, he tapped me. He said, look. And I said, oh, my God. All of a sudden, I forgot how tired I was, and I walked down, hand up. And I was like, that was my junior year. When I was a freshman, everybody said, well, we want to break what do you want to do in track and field? And they got to me. I said, I want to break the world record and graduate from UCLA. And they laughed at me. Man, I couldn't wait to get to practice. You asked me what I wanted to do and what I said I wanted to do. You poo-pooed on what I'm... No.
So you should love lane 2 now. Lane 2 should be your lane then.
Well, actually, I won my first national championships in lane 7. I was following... It was funny because Lee was another one of my mentors, and I was... and all my fast races up until that point were on the outside lanes.
Okay.
And I remember I was like, ooh, gaga, goo-goo. I was Lee Evans, world record holder and Olympic champion. And he took me under his wing. And we were in Bakersfield. And I'm like, it was sweats off. They announced everybody. This was the premier race. Everybody in that race was who's who. I was nobody. And I got there, and the lead turned around and looked at me. He said, just follow me. I said, okay. All right. The gun went off. I didn't let him go. I just stayed right behind him.
How old were you at that point?
I was 19.
Okay, you was young. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we were running down the backstretch, and I could see him. And I'm like, okay, hold your rhythm. Hold your rhythm. We got to 200. He made a move. I made one with him. Okay. He came off the turn. I ran by everybody, and I'm like, oh, my God, what did I just do? No, I did not. Yes, you did. I said, Lee, I'm sorry. I apologize. Lee looked at me and said, look here. Don't you ever apologize to anybody that you beat. Don't you ever do that to me. He said, because the next time you and I get out here, I'm stomping a hole in your ass.
So, Coach, what was that 400-meter environment back then compared to what it is today that you see?
I'm glad you said competitive because the times are relative because that was a dirt track I ran on.
Jeez.
Yeah. You know, we were running like 45.7s, 45.5s. I remember Tommy Smith running 44.5 and 44.8 on dirt tracks, 20 flat on dirt tracks. You know, all those guys were running. We were competitive. There was no money back then, so you ran for something different. There was pride. There was black pride. There was black movement. I mean, you had white boys running fast. The only way I could get out of my neighborhood is I had to run. NFL didn't pay no money. NBA had barely got on they weren't even on TV then in 70. Just barely was taped. It was a turbulent time. It's kind of like what ICE is doing now. Well, they were doing that to us back then.
So what did it feel like running at that time where, you know, you want to show your talent, you want to compete at a high level, but you know there's a group, especially within your own country, that hated you, that didn't want to see you be successful, didn't want to see a young black man have glory. Our generation and generations after us will never understand what you paved the way, and all those athletes paved the way for us to be able to have understanding and respect in our sport.
For us, it was like a wave of us infiltrating the society. Not necessarily wanting to be like anybody. That's why we wore our froze. You know, we stopped straightening our hair. We started embracing our blackness. We had to emancipate ourselves, and Bob Marley came through. We had a lot of awakening, and so it spilled over into in track and field. So when we would line up, it was us against them, but it was always us and us. That's a competitive thing, because remember, you had KKK infiltrating everybody. Everybody's in everybody's ear. And if you didn't have a sense of who you are, then you fail the test. Because when you went for a job, you knew that you were behind the 8 ball from the jump street.
Because you're black.
Yeah. It didn't matter. I remember in 72, we were, Pre was one of my boys. Pre was just like us.
I heard he was cool.
Yeah, that boy's so cool. He'd walk in a hot sauna and chill it. You know, and UCLA and Oregon, we ran against each other. And I remember one day Pre said, "Hey, come on, let's go out for a party." I said, "Man, do you know I got 4 events to run tomorrow?" He said, "I got 4 events." I said, "Yeah, but you can use half of those warming up and getting your sobriety. I can't do that." But no, he wasn't well accepted or liked by his own kind, because he was brash. He would tell you he's going to do it. He told me, "Well, I'm going to run against all them Europeans. I don't care." But no, quiet down. No, I ain't quieting down. And that's so endearing about him. But this is some of the things that we had to go. I remember trying to get a workout in. I had to hop this like 15-foot fence at Fremont, throw my blocks over, go run, work out. Cops come, get chased out, throw it back over, and then run home.
That's crazy.
You know, and
Just so you can practice.
Yeah, just so I could practice.
You've had one of the most greatest careers with the absence of the Olympic golds, but most of our viewers might not know who you are. That's why we wanted to expound on you a little bit. A lot of people know you as the legendary coach, John Smith, who has a lot of athletes who have medals under his tenure. When did you figure that you could possibly be a coach? And then later on find out you probably are a good coach.
When I went to the movie industry.
You were right, bro.
I said, it says John Smith is an actor. I said, but he has a common name, so it's probably 9,000 John Smiths in California. So, but I knew I saw it where it said actor.
Yeah.
What'd you act in? Tell us.
227 Marla Gibbs.
227? You was in 227?
Uh-huh.
Was Regina?
Shaft.
Which Regina one of it? The Hall or King?
That was Jackie. Jackie.
I see her on now. She's doing something. Regina King.
Regina
Yep.
King.
Yeah.
227. That's all our old younger kids won't know 227.
Lee Majors.
Yeah.
Look out for number 1. They're one of the original Karate Kids. That first movie.
You was in the Karate Kid?
I worked, not the Karate Kid. What was the name?
Well, I'm about to say, I'm going to rewatch that one. I gotta find
So I said, okay. So I started getting involved in the acting field because it was the only thing that gave me the satisfaction that I had on track and field.
Do you feel that what you learned from the acting world, which is whatever you put into your craft, made you the actor that you are, kind of like how track and field is, how hard you work for that goal or that success, and you put that out there? Do you think that's what the parallel was for acting and track, and that's why you love track like that?
Yeah, actually, exactly. Here's the thing. I remember going to a call. And Denzel was up for the role. I'm like, you know where the hell I'm going to get this, but I had to go and do it. I went for another one, Richard Lawson, you know. I went from another one, Dorian Hayworth. I'm like, and see, around that time when all that was going on for about a year, Bob Larson asked me, he said, he took over in '84. He said, how would you like to coach? I said, me? I said, no, Bob, not me. He said, well, just think about it. He said, because I watched you. You have you don't know who's watching you. And so I watched you have a good feel for stuff. And I watch you, the people like the athletes respect you. Now, as a competitor, you don't know who respects you. Mm-hmm. You know, you're in your world, you know, you got fire and brimstone in your soul.
Yeah.
You know, it's you against the world. You don't really know how you are inspiring people. And so he asked me about 3 times, and the 4th time I said, okay, yeah, Bob, I'll take it. And I went home and told my wife, and she said, well, if that's what you want to do. I said, I'm going to be traveling again. Are you sure? She said, look, if that makes you happy. I said, okay. So I went and I said, okay, Bob, I'll do it. And that was '84. The games were, I left because I was still brokenhearted. I went to Modesto, hunted and fished that whole summer. And just enjoyed myself. Took my dog up there. We were hunting and fishing and doing all kinds of stuff. I came back that fall, and I said, okay. So I really didn't have a desk. I just had I was out at the track.
Okay. That was your office.
Everybody had an office, and, you know, they had telephone and so forth. And but I didn't care. I was just like something that was kind of magic. And I still didn't know what it was. And I remember the first day of practice, I went out to the young man and I said, I have 3 drills. The 4th drill is you got to learn how to run. But the 3 are going to like segment it down what you need to do. And it was like 55 guys. I said, okay. So I turned around and I started walking and behind me, and I heard this ruffling, and a chill came over me, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to be careful what I say, because I got 55 people behind me are going to fall and listen to every word that I say. And that's when I started like, wow. Accountability, responsibility, and follow through. Lead by example. All these cliches that you hear when you're coming up, all of a sudden, I'm like, wow. So I'm at practice, and I'm like free. I'm getting chills. I'm walking, and when there was grass, I coach barefoot. So I'm grounded on the ground, and I'm saying things that I didn't know I knew. Things were coming to me. I was explaining stuff. I'm like, and in my mind, how the hell did I know that? So I went home to my mother, and I said, Mom, I said, I got these things running through my head. And, you know, she said, son, that's your angels talking to you. Just listen. And stay grounded. I'm like, yeah. So that's when I started realizing that, wow, I missed my goal, but I can teach people how to get theirs.
See, but you basically said it earlier. You said it was preparation of what you was going through that brought you to what you was going to.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that stuff that happened brought you to this point right here to where...
Painfully.
Exactly. Exactly. But continue. Go ahead.
No, you know, and it was comforting. And then I said, well, what I got to do now? And so Bob was teaching me the game. He was teaching me how to recruit, teaching me the little nuances and stuff. And I remember him at that time. I don't know if you remember Track Technique. It was a black and white throwaway that they had, and Track and Field News. Track and Field News is all black and white, and I used to read that all through high school and so forth.
So it was called black and white. It was called Track Technique before Track and Field News came along?
No, Track and Field News was one periodical, and then this one was another one.
Okay.
Track Technique took all the Russian stuff, everything, and so forth. So I used to read that. I would go in the library and read. So I was just fascinated. Even through high school, I was just like read about, man, how Tommy and them run that doggone fast.
Yeah.
You know. And my dad said, well, they put their pants on just like you do. You know, ain't no different. And so I would always, and I knew everybody's stats. When I ran, I knew everybody. I knew how tall you were. I knew when you were born. I knew when you what your PRs were. I knew if you ran in hot weather, cold weather. I knew what you ran in the fall, indoors, and how you ran rounds. So information to me was something that I put in my in my folder of everybody, you know, and I knew what they were doing. So when I was coaching everyone, and still to this day, when they were like, man, you see what such and such run? I said, were you there? I said, no. I said, so enjoy the news. It don't mean nothing. It only means something if you were there. Now, if you were there and they ran it, now how you going to run fast enough to beat what they did? So it's like you always want to empower yourself and be inspired with someone. Like, man, never. I always tell coaches, don't try to say, get mad because the coach had an athlete that beat your athlete. We ain't coaches. We ain't competing. What we're doing is inspiring young people to compete, to raise their level. Now, how is it you're going to do? You have to do it in a way where, see, inspire means in spirit. You can't do dirt and expect not to have dirt on your hands. And I urge all young coaches now is that I love what's happening now. You know, somebody said, well, what would you do if you were here? I said, well, I'm not here. I said, but the mindset I have, you don't even want to know. I said, because I knew that the power of positive thinking, the strength that you could have. I watched you, and you were out in lane 8, 7, and you won the world championships. You beat Bo, you beat Coleman, and everybody had written you off.
Yeah.
And I was laughing. I said, y'all don't know who he is.
Yeah.
This dude is a beast, because they don't know your history.
Yeah.
They only know your present. But I know how you got where you got and what you brought with you, what you got. All the other stuff you went through, even what you went through set you up, and you came back and you ran. I'm like, I used to watch you and like, damn, let me get me another drink. This boy's rolling.
Got to sip to that.
Oh, yeah, you know. But see, that's what John Carlos, people don't really know what John Carlos went through. John's from, he's from, I think either Brooklyn or, no, he's from New York. And John would run from the cops. And the cops were chasing him for two weeks. and they finally caught him. And he said, oh, okay. Take me to jail. They said, we don't want to take you to jail. We want you to run for our club. Tommy Smith. Tommy Smith was part of a sharecropper. They used to mash grapes and so forth. So he got all this strength in his hips. Lee Evans, the same thing. So there's a backstory between greatness. And I used to read to find out, okay, what did they do? Now, we didn't have grapes in L.A., but I put my boots on and tried to run around the block to make everything a little difficult.
Is that how you was able to pick athletes like Maurice Green? Because when Mo came along, he wasn't the Mo. and you helped build him to the Mo he was.
You built the first textbook runner that most coaches would be like. He invented the drive phase and the 3-part race: drive phase, transition, maintenance, and all of that.
Maurice perfected it. Maurice had a vernacular on his ankle, so I had to train him different. I couldn't jump him a lot. He had a wrist problem, so he couldn't rack. So I had to take him where he was. But the thing he did, he put it here. So as I started learning about what Tom Tellez was doing, I put my spin on it. I started working with a speed skater. I watched somewhere in the early 90s, there was this Japanese kid that won the 500, and he was short, but his stride pattern was long. And I'm looking at him like, how you get that? Because he maintained a position where he could stay and push. He didn't come up. So when you come up, you start bouncing. But if you can have the strength and you can stay here, you can push down the track. Everybody else is up running, and you're still down here. And see, Maurice had that ability to do that. And he was patient. You know, he would actually stay with something, and he could feel somebody next to him. He'd just wait for you to make the mistake. And when you make the mistake, he said, gotcha.
Listen, when he perfected the drive phase, he just was out hell on wheels. He was a demon. You know what I mean? And for you to even like understand that you were trying to eliminate that vertical bounce movement, which was wasted movement down the track, and create a drive phase, which you just use gravity to pull you into the direction you wanted to go.
Maurice had an 8'2" stride length, and he was 5'10".
Hamstring's crazy.
Yeah.
Quad
crazy too.
Quad, glutes, the whole thing. And he had his upper body. So it accorded. And we didn't do a whole lot of benches and so forth. What we did, we strengthened in the area, and then we perfected it on the track. So people want to separate. They want to go in the weight room and think that's going to have something to do with the track. Nah, that ain't it. No, you get the weight room that gives you enough relative strength so you can perfect your movements. And that's where you start doing. You start perfecting your movements so that you are able to take your strength. Now you only gonna get too much muscle mass. That's
counterproductive. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be careful. When I watch a lot of people get a lot of these different things and so forth, and they come up with all these ideas, but how many of you really understand the art of coaching and the art of running? Everybody is not going to be able to do that. True.
So you just finished talking about Maurice, but you wasn't finished, but talking about how you came up with the drive phase and how Maurice perfected it. But after you perfected that, you had a whole plethora of athletes. You probably had one of the best groups that was ahead of its time. You guys even had a TV show.
Had a TV show.
A TV show. It was crazy. Like, I watched the TV show back then and say in my head that you guys were definitely ahead of your time with Maurice, Otto, Tori, Inga, I think
Mary Jo Perec was in there.
Mary Jo Perec.
Yeah.
Alan Johnson.
Alan.
Alan was there. Larry Wade was there.
Larry Wade.
Yeah.
Like you had a core group. Like
if you set them in this time with social media, you would probably be the most famous person in track and field out there. Y'all were out there flying on private planes and doing whatever.
Yeah, we set the tone.
Y'all did. Y'all was a rock star.
Hold on, that tone ain't even been recreated. Y'all set the tone and then left it there. Nobody, I've never seen a group in our time there's groups that's close, but not like who moved like y'all moved, and hearing about the things, how y'all traveled as a group, and betting on races, who could run the slowest to qualify, and all
you know that?
Yeah, I know that. That part of track and field needs to be explored more, because that was cool. Like back then, I think you can still find some of the episodes on YouTube.
We are the generation that watched and mimicked your generation. Like the races, the words, the verbiage, everything.
Okay.
Like the fact that you guys had an HSI flag.
Yeah.
And apparel. Like those are the things that we wanted to be connected to. We wanted not only to be a Maurice Green or a John Drummond or Otto Bolden or Inger or Torrey, anybody. We wanted to be those athletes because they were connected to something that we found was really, really cool,
and all of them
that no one else was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, one of the things that we did, because at the time, you had to be voted in the group.
Wow.
You just couldn't come in there.
So you didn't make the decision and say, hey, I want this person in. I don't care what y'all say.
Well, I would say I would bring them to, if I saw somebody, I would bring them to the group, and then they would put them through.
Okay.
And I'm not part of that process, because you know how starting practice is.
If they survive, they survive.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
you know I had one thing. That's the only time I let them really run with each other is when you starting. You got 10s, you got 20s, you got 30s, you got 40s. I tried to go 50, but they kept getting hurt because they started getting too competitive.
Yeah.
And after, they'd be ready to go on the blows, and I would be in the middle like, hey, keep your mind on what you're doing. Control your anger. You know, I'm doing Zen, you know, going to all my stuff that I know how you do when you're on the stage and you're playing an angry angry session. That the thing is you got to keep breathing, because the moment you stop breathing is when the anger takes you over. As long as you're breathing, you have control. So that's how I was controlling and talk to them, and so to give them, empower them, not to get caught up, but to use that energy so that you can get the most out of it. And then when we were finished, I said, you guys finished? They'd be mad as us, and I shake their hand. I said, shake their hand. And they would shake. I said, hug them. You guys did a good job today. And then they would go out after that and say, man, you kicked my ass today, but I'm going to get you. I said, let it just stay here, because when you go out, you got to protect each other.
So they knew whatever day was start day or block day, they came already on fire.
Oh.
Talking trash.
Wait. Oh, they couldn't wait.
I love start days.
It was funny because when I was at UCLA, a lot of times I had my back to the stands. I had to start going on, because on the other side they were throwing the discus, and people were in lane one, you know, and I'm right there. And I would turn around, and I said, man, I got to clean my language up, because there'd be a bunch of people up in there. They're looking, but taking pictures and writing stuff down. And we practice was like a show. People would literally come out there. When they found out, they would come out there and watch us practice.
I mean, you literally had a show.
Yeah.
How did you acquire the show back then? Like, what was the thing behind that type of deal being handled back then? Because, like, you guys had reality TV almost before reality TV. I think the only reality TV that was on TV back then was Cops.
Probably. In like the first season of Real World, yeah.
It was a combination between Emmanuel and I, because Emmanuel was pragmatic. And he, you know, you can cry on his shoulder if you want, okay, and did you get beat? Yeah, then get your ass back out there. And it was no holds barred. Now, with me, because of the coach, I move around all of this, but see, a lot of people look, it's like parenting. They're going to find out who I can talk to get a soft landing. You can get no soft landing out there. A lot of people couldn't handle it. And
Yeah.
I understand. But I'm not going to dummy down my program. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not at the, I outgrew UCLA. It was time for me to move on, because I would have walk-ons that they would come in And I'm like, you are going to do the same things they do, if not more? And they would look at me and they were like, oh, no. You're the one putting stuff. You want me to coach you? I'm not putting no stops on you. You have to put down here and get busy. And I had people come in there sometimes running 48 seconds. They wanted running 45 fives. Why? Because it's expected of them to do that. And I will always give them their flowers. Because if you yell at somebody and sometimes I had to take my hat and put it back and go off. But at the end of the day, I gave them their soul. Here, what is it? This is you. You know, I'm just trying to make you better.
Which athlete tested you the most?
All of them. Every freaking one of them. But they were special. And it was funny. I had this thing. A lot of times I'll say something, you know, and you're like, oh, fuck. I said, I heard that shit. Like, and you said, they'd be walking away from me and facing everybody else. And I said, I heard that. And the other one would be laughing. I said, look, stop disrespecting me. If you're going to call me something, just put Mister in front of it. And so they would bust up laughing. So I was kind of like running a comedy show. You know, and it's intense. Like football is intense. They're trying to bust your balls. I'm not trying. I want your balls to be bigger. You know, and I want you to like have fun. So when you leave practice, you leave in practice with your chest out, not debilitated down. And so that was my goal every day, especially now you're running threes and, you know, and 150s. No, that's a different, no, you know.
That's a different energy,
yeah,
attitude.
Energy, yeah. But when you're sprinting, we're doing 60s. I never let them run the 60s together because they got too competitive. I make them run and you had to watch.
So how would
I actually saw that on the show.
Yeah?
Where he let Maurice go. And then Otto's watching. And then he calls out the time. And then he's like, what was that? And Otto goes right behind and is like, what was that?
Yeah.
they're going to find a way to be competitive.
Yeah.
We do the same way. We're going to find a way to be competitive.
Yeah, but that's good.
Gentlemen, you might have a hot date coming up.
Maybe you need a little bit of a competitive advantage. And as a road partner, RSG will help you get it right. But this stuff really works, and it kicks in on 15 minutes on average.
And it's easy. It is all right in your tongue and goes directly into your bloodstream so you can get it cracking.
And this stuff lasts up to 36 hours. You can't make this stuff up. And no, you don't stay hard the whole time, my brothers.
Hey, and if you want to perform your best, head right over to Rose Sparks now.
You want to make sure you can deliver immediately.
Hey, you know what they say. First impressions last a lifetime.
It's all about making sure that your sex life is on point.
If you get approved, it's directly shipped to your doorstep. It avoids all those awkward talks, and it's done all online.
If you want to be bigger, thicker, and longer, look nowhere else.
If prescribed, new sexual health patients get $15 off their first order of Sparks on their recurring plan.
Connect with a provider at ro.co/RSG to find out if a prescription Rose Sparks are right for you.
That's ro.co/RSG for $15 off your first order.
I grew up hearing stories that I call them the trifecta, right? That you had John Drummond, Otto, and Maurice Green, right? All at the same time. I always hear these little stories where they'll play mind games, right? They'll get into like, let's just say they'll be at a meet at the starting line and they know that it'll be a high pressure meet, or they'll have some guys that they're racing against where they didn't want them to break them up. They're 1, 2, 3, right? So they'll say one guy like John Drummond with false start, right? Then he'll start arguing with the ref. But Maurice and Otto knew that it was part of the play. They would reset themselves, they would be ready, and everybody else would be kind of enamored by how John is acting towards the ref, and then it'll pipe down, they'll get back in the blocks, and the only 3 people that would really focus was those HSI boys.
See, it's funny you mentioned that. I basically allowed them I didn't allow.
I didn't allow. I don't want to make it seem like I'm incriminating myself.
When they're amongst themselves, they've got a whole nother language that they do. See, John could get away with it because John was a charmer. Maurice, he had a scowl on his face.
Attitude.
Yeah. Otto was too intellectual. He'd pitch his voice up and start using language that's not befitting for church. And but John, because he was a PK kid, he knew how to capitulate his voice, come back, because he was an entertainer.
Yeah.
So he knew how to do that. I mean, he could go at a ref and they look like John, and then they'll soften it and so forth. So each one of them had a role. Maurice was the one that stayed centered all the time. You couldn't rattle him. You can false start if you want. He didn't care. Because it's like, I'm going to stay in my drive face, I'm going to come out, and I'm going to kick your ass. That was his motto. And if you got him, he'll give you 5.
How does a great coach like you keep all those personalities in check and keep everybody seeing what the real goal is? Because let's be honest, only one can win the gold. Only one can run the fastest time in a race.
I have what I call motivational Monday. It's a mixture of, it's a philosophy. You know, we would talk about, and I would use myself as an example. I would say, you know what? I had to feel sorry for myself the other day in the weight room. I'm up here bitching and complaining, and I'm leaning on this apparatus, and something bumped me. And I'm like, who the hell is this? And there's a guy in a wheelchair said, can I use this, please? Man, I felt like a big old dodo bird. And I said, this is what you have to be, is humble. Because when there's someone has a worse day than you, there's always, and someone didn't get home. So no matter what happens here, you are blessed with gifts. It's up to you to perfect your gift. You are responsible. I am going to give you as much as I can, and what I don't know, I'm going to find out. But don't feel sorry for yourself. Be empowered that we are gifted people. And this shall pass at one point, but seize the moment. And so I would always have those bits of nuggets thrown at them, because I wanted them to be as out there as possible. I don't want to make a Rottweiler or a poodle. No, nuh-uh. I want a Rottweiler that want to eat meat.
Yeah.
I want it to be as dangerous as possible. However, as human beings, be respectful. So when you would compete, that's why I made them shake hands when they got, when I see somebody competitor, I say, man, go shake his hand. Nah, that's it. All right, then don't come to practice the next day until you shake that person's hand. And and you go over and you get used to being up here, but being humble by coming back down. It don't mean you're weak. It means you got respect.
Yeah, perspective.
And that's all I wanted to do. That's what I always told them. If you're going to curse me out, whatever adjective you're going to use to explain to me, because I said, this is my 3rd marriage now. I done heard a whole lot. I said, just call me mister. And that would make them laugh. I said, okay. Then I knew I had them.
Did you feel like you had to speak their language? Like, say, for instance, how you said John was the charmer or the one with the sense of humor. Did you feel like you had to pep talk him a different way than you would pep talk Otto, who was more intellectual, and you would pep talk Maurice a certain way because he was more grounded and focused?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what makes a really good coach? Someone who can be able to speak the language of each of their athlete, but still have the same goal?
Yeah, you got to read the tea leaves.
Yeah.
Now, Otto always he has 2 sayings. He says, sheep don't make goat.
There we go.
And he knows that because that comes from the island.
Yep.
And a monkey know what tree to climb.
This is true.
There we go.
You know, these are some earthly isms that come from different people. And I always look for that. I always look to see, and you know, I'm having fun now because I got foreign athletes, and you have to, like, I'm learning languages and nuances and so forth. And you know, like for instance, I'm gonna give you all the athletes teach me how to coach. You know, I got all this facts, this science and stuff running through my brain, you know, angles, parabolas, you know, ground contact time, you know, vertical, horizontal. That's all on the page. That's
that science.
Yeah, but the people is what you have to coach. And the way you last a long time is learning, growing every day. So I read books on philosophy. And things that we wouldn't go and pick up and just start reading or so forth. It's off the chart. But I make it relative to them because there's so much information coming now with the onset of the cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it is disguised information. Mis and disinformation, because it's trying to gather you to either control you or make you part of what they're trying to sell or what they're advocating. And so I always try to give them a little bit of history. I said, do you know when Rudolph, she had polio? She had both her legs almost broken, and you know, she wasn't supposed to walk. Not run, walk. And then back in the 50s, well, they didn't have a whole lot of medicine. Polio was worse than AIDS. and I said, she got a gold medal. Oh, and by the way, when she went there, she had 3 kids.
Jeez, yeah.
Wow.
She had a lot going on.
Oh, you didn't know that? It's in your phone. You know, look at that as opposed to looking at the other stuff that you have. Because it's rich history. And I'm looking at Chat GPT. Man, that's my teacher.
That's your new friend, right?
Oh, I ask, but you got to know what questions to ask.
There you go. Exactly.
When I ask that question, I'm like, okay. So it keeps me energized and motivated. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. Okay, what am I learning now? You know, how is if something's bothering me, which it does, I'm like, okay, this asshole pissed me off yesterday. I said, but that's something that, okay. Now, how you gonna turn this around? You got his idea. Or her idea. You got my idea. Now, what's the ideal idea that will make this work? And that's how you deal with polarizing. And polarizing is good. I mean, you need opposites. Because if everything was the same, you know, we would walk all the tree, everything either be green or be the color of this wall. That's not what this world, this universe is made of.
Yeah.
It's colors. And different colors and moves around. There's some prime colors, but then there's some colors that touch this and it becomes in here. Because I tell them, I say, have you ever watched the sun set? The sun just doesn't set. It sets and it gives off different hues and colors. If you look at it real good and spend time and you just, that moment, stay centered and watch it, you could feel things going. Then it turns into, you see it going into dusk. You see it going into, and there's a dance that the universe has. That's just the same thing when you're coming out of the blocks. You start, you listen to the audible. I said, there's no reason for you to even phantom jumping. I said, that That's total arrogance. That is total arrogance. What if the moon jumped the sun? I said, we'd be in holy hell. As well as the sun decided that, you know what? I'm going to give a nice electric fart on the universe. Man, we'd be burnt to the singe. No, it only gives off as much as what we have to protect us. So same with starting. Same when you get up in the morning. Get up in the morning. Get up early. Were you going to get a half an hour sleep? Come on. Be real.
Yeah.
That's laziness. And you got to get up to wake up. And when you sleep good, you feel like, damn. You know, you try to get up and you say, then why is my arm still in the bed and I'm standing up? Because you got a good night's sleep. You got to know how to get to sleep, but you also got to know how to go to sleep.
Well, we know that you have slept some good nights because we also know not only are you a great male coach, but you also a great female coach. Was that difficult to kind of translate that philosophy from men to women? Because with the women you've had, like from English Gardner to Carmelita Jeter to Tori to Inga, like
to Lou,
to Andrew Williams, like to Brianna that you have now, like you've had women who have either set the tone or they've been a standout figure in our sport. You know what I mean? And that's and a perfect example, like Carmelita. Carmelita had such a character. It was like she was always ready for war.
That's an understatement.
She was always ready for war, man.
That's my daughter.
There it is. There it is.
I can answer that. I had to learn. Coaching men was easy. That's testosterone. You know, you go out there, hey, you know, and see when I was younger, ain't none of them come with me. That was my persona. They all could kick my behind, but the perception, the art, I never would challenge them head up. I would always leave a little bit, one, to give them their aura, also, just in case they didn't have the discipline, I could slip out and not harm either one of us. See, females, you don't have to do that. So I had to learn to tepid my coaching, and a lot of it had to do with my daughter, because when I was raising my daughter, I remember one time she actually was my manager at one point, right? And I went off like I was coaching a bunch of sailors. And my daughter looked at me. I looked at her and said, "What?" And she looked at me. She said, "I said, did I go overboard?" She said, "Yeah, Dad." I said, "You think I need to apologize?" She said, "Yeah, Dad." I said, "Okay, wait a minute." I went over there and apologized. But then I realized you had to be careful, because I don't really know how, I don't see me the way they see me. I have something inside of me. And see, I wasn't part of the college coaching. I was always on the outside of it. So the rules was basically like the world. In college, I had to be a little different. But when you coaching high-strung people that they are, they want it bad.
Yeah.
And I had to almost get to the point when they wanted it bad, not at all costs. You know, there's ethics in what you do. And I always tell them, I said, "See that line?" I said, "Yeah." You can go up to it. You can touch it a little bit. Don't cross it. Because there are consequences when you cross.
Do you feel that the attitude that the athletes had then are way different than the athletes that are now?
You know, that's a good question. I had a little more influence because I had a group. I don't have that group right now. And the ones that I get, I see that they've been jaded with some ideas about how to be successful.
Yeah.
And the thing that because the only thing eluded me, I was number one. I got the Pan Am Games. I've been to the Olympics. You know, I was a top dog. I was a fierce competitor. I had a persona. When I stepped on the track, you were like, oh, he's bringing it. But that didn't come from being bred. That came from practice. That came from being practiced. I have this saying, are you at practice or are you in practice? See, when you're in practice, that's a lifestyle. When you're at practice, oh, I got my phone, I'm just doing this, you know, and so forth.
Going through the motions.
Yeah. When you are in practice, you go to sleep in practice. You dream in practice. You wake up in practice. You speak in practice. Your whole persona, even if you make a mistake or cross a line, because you are in practice, you apologize without feeling disempowered. You know that when you ask for forgiveness, it's actually empowering you as a better person. They are inundated with this culture that in order to be strong, you got to have a bigger gun than somebody. You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's happening especially in our society, and I find that when I meet and I talk to them, they listen. But if you around me all the time, you'll listen and you'll be empowered, and you will be able to make some changes. The biggest thing that I have, two. I remember going to the talking to kids in basically incarcerated, and I told them, I said, you know the difference between me and you? I was lucky enough to get caught. I didn't get caught. I'm just like you. I thought I was slicker than snot and twice as hot, you know. I said, but I learned. So you went back one more time and you got caught. I said, that's the only difference between you being out and you in. Change your concept on what you're doing. Stop hanging around the people that you're around. Change your environment. Yeah. People tell me, oh man, you know, you forgot where you come from. No, I ain't forgot. I just ain't trying to go back there. No. Oh, I know where those rock houses are. Yeah. I know where the gunslingers, sometimes I know where the bodies are buried.
There you go.
But I ain't going there to unbury the bodies or zoom them. No. I said, no, you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
That's true.
And I got a bunch of boys that I grew up with. At 75 right now, most of them are gone. Oh, they knew how to drink off the top shelf. They knew where everything was. I had to drive most of them home a lot of times. But I have a sense of I'm not going to take myself out any sooner than I'm supposed to leave. I have a goal. I want to live to be 100. That's another thing. So my lifestyle is set up to live 100. Now, whether I get there or not, that's to be determined. You know, the TBS.
Do you desire to have a big successful group like you had in the past, or would you rather keep it small and intimate like you have now?
You know what? Someone posed that question to me. I want a group. It doesn't matter how big it is, it's how manageable it becomes. That was, and one of the reasons why it moved over is because it became hard to manage. It's a lot of energy, and it starts spilling in. When I was 50, it started spilling into my life. In 2000, when Maurice won, it was fun. I could feel the tension of the exposure, you know. Between
the training partners?
No, the publicity.
Oh, okay.
All the accolades, and Maurice won. Otto got second. Drummond got fourth, and I could feel it. And Jim Gray came up to me. He said, "Okay, man, this is your moment." I said, Jim, I don't want to do this. He looked at me, he said, why? I said, man, that's a lot of folk. He said, look, whether you do it or not, they already got their opinion. So whatever they think about you is true because it's their opinion. So seize the moment right now and let the chips fall as it may. And I did. But here's the thing. From 93 to 2000, man, we were rolling.
Rolling.
Oh, man. I was like pinching myself and said, okay, driving Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah, man, we seen y'all was living.
John Drummond ran in Monaco, ran into the
Fairmont
lobby.
The Fairmont, the lobby of the Fairmont Hotel. It was, yeah.
Hotel.
He crashed the Ferrari, right?
Yeah, crashed the car. I'm like, but we knew the prince. So we got off. It was like, and everybody in Monaco knew us.
You know how long that story has circulated?
It's
a legendary story.
It is. It's said that they were racing in Monaco, like they were out there racing them cars.
Yeah, they had like Ferraris and Porsches racing each other.
The police knew who they were. It was like, and see, being in the movie industry, you go and you do stuff, but I pull back from the nightlife. They went out and perfected the nightlife. So, and I look at them, I'm like, we can't work out today. I'll yank your genetics right out of the socket. So that was part of the management and so forth. During that era. Today, the group now is manageable because I'm able to teach. Basically, that's what I like doing. I like the philosophy, the growing up. I used to love to listen to older men talk, the wisdoms, the little drop of nuggets and so forth.
Like Brooks?
Yeah, especially Brooks. And it's nice to see the clarity and people, because like Richard Pryor said, there ain't no such thing as old fools, because you can't get old and be a fool. And so you have some wisdom and something to part with. So even now when I see people who are older than I always bow my head with respect, because I respect. I grew up chivalry, take your cloak and put it over the water, open the door, walk an old lady across the street. You didn't kill women and you didn't kill children. You respected the weak, and so forth. And these were real hood gangsters back in my day. Now it's no holds bars. People are doing all kinds of stuff because we've a few of us have not paid attention to what we do. Now, there are more of us on this earth, and there are more people who respect that. But the few, because of this TV, and because of the negative news and so forth, this is one reason why I wanted to come. And I'm truly honored that you asked me to be part of this podcast, because this is something that's been in me, since I'll be 75 on August 5th, and so I've been and there's still little nuggets and so forth, but it's like someone has to get out and tell the story to have these young men and young women respect relationships, because that's what we're here for. I mean, you can get your car, you can get a house, you can get all that, so you can have money. But really, who are you and what are you doing in society. What I always wanted to do, and my father said, find something you love and leave the world in a better place than what you showed up. And that's my mantra right now. So if it is for me to have a bigger group, my thing is to make sure that those young people are going to leave this world a better place.
That's good. I want to ask this. 2000, you speak about Maurice winning the gold and the success. 2004, he tries to repeat. How did you prepare for somebody like him?
Oh, him and Sean?
How did that work? Because you meet up with him in 2004 at the trials. Sean and Maurice are going back at it. He's kind of like in the background. Like, what was that like? Like how?
It was Asafa too. You can't forget Asafa.
Yeah. No, but I trials for USA first. I trials is just y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's definitely preparing for Asafa, but yours like soft in the background. It's more so.
Well, you know what?
What's the name popping off at the mouth? Sean, really, you just along for the ride as the rookie. You know what I mean? And then coming into that, like, how did you?
I kept my eye on him. See, I knew Sean. Sean was just a gift. I watched Sean run when he was at South Carolina. And Sean ran 20:09, 10:20 something. He won the NC2As and he got like fourth or something. Because Sean didn't care enough about training. And I don't know if it's true. I just saw it from observation. But I knew you because I followed what you did. And when, but I also watched, see, this dude could start. See, everybody don't realize he ran 6:49 when he, out the gate, when he left school. And he came out there and won the world championships in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that and I'm like, damn, he's going to be dangerous. And so what he did didn't surprise me. What I was trying to tell Maurice is watch him. And at that time, Maurice was coming back, but Maurice was getting, Maurice was extremely confident, almost to the point where it borderline being cocky.
It's our fault.
Yeah.
Confident.
Yeah, because everybody's confident, but the confidence comes from respecting your opponents. But then when it comes from the other level, it means there's something creeping in your psyche. And he won the trials, but it wasn't how he should have won, or could have rather. So I knew it was going to be tough. But what he did in the trials, you guys were on the other side. Obukwelu was Asafa was next to Maurice.
Yeah.
Obukwelu was on the other side. Sean, no, it was you and then Sean, if I remember correctly.
I was in the outside. I was like 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Sean was like 4.
Yeah, and then I forget who. Obukwelu was in the middle.
I think Obukwelu was next to either Sean, and then it was Maurice, and then Asafa, I think, around there.
No,
yeah.
Asafa, Maurice was, Asafa blind him. So when he came out of his drive phase, he looked up, you were gone. And then he closed. He got bronze. He was mad. He said, I don't want this. I looked at him and I said, hey, man, I'll take it. I ain't got nothing in my drawer. But that was that. That was kind of the start of, and what I'm going to say, from 93 to 2000, the hardest part after that was from 01 until I got Carmelita in 09. That was the most challenging. That was when I thought about, man, what am I doing this for? Because it seemed like nothing I did was working. It was like, dang. But I was learning. And I remember X-Man came on.
Xavier.
Yeah.
Everybody
X-Man
remember.
X-Man was a talent, but he didn't have that it. He was just talented. And I remember Mark Block, he came up to me. We were in Osaka, and Carmelita got third. And I remember watching her. I said, how come I'm not coaching her? I whispered to myself as I'm watching, because she was in the outside, like lane 7 or 8. And she turned her head this way, and everybody was over here. But, she her reaction time was 2:02.
Wow.
Couldn't start if you gave her a match.
Yeah, she walked out them blocks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The gun went off. Oh, I'm okay, let me go. So I'm sitting in there. You know how Osaka was hot, muggy, and that was my 25th anniversary. So Mark said, well, I'm going to see you in Europe. I said, nah, you ain't seeing me. I was tired. So I went home, celebrated my 25th anniversary, and I told Mark, I said, just give me a call. So when he called me, he said, this is not about Xavier. And I really didn't want to coach another a guy that had some challenges. And he said, but, and I said, before he said, I said, yes. He said, you don't know. I said, I know who you're talking about. I'm a Carmelita. And she's a soldier, but she's strong.
Oh, yeah.
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 I let her, I could coach her. No, you couldn't. You couldn't coach her. And see, I stood up. A lot of times we would fly together, and I remember trying to talk to her. She wouldn't talk to me. I said, okay.
What do you mean she wouldn't talk? Hold on. What do you mean she wouldn't talk to you? She just was just sitting there?
Just like mad. No, just all up in her feelings.
Yeah.
See, but this is like a female.
Yeah.
I mean, one that is got this. And I said, okay. We wouldn't talk. We would get out. I said, I see you in practice. Yeah. But in practice, the one thing I like about it, didn't interfere. So we went to work. And so we had that, and we developed a friendship over. She's a coach. So she understands what the dynamics are of coaching and so forth. So it's kind of nice to watch her grow as a coach. And somebody said, well, I know you talking to her. I said, no. She'll ask me a question. I'll give her a few. And then she'll ask me a question. I said, okay, so what do you think? Well, I said, let me say this. What's your instincts? Let me be raw with it. You talking to me. And then I said, okay, now, how are you going to help that person? And then we go to conclude. Because the coaches got to have somebody to talk. That Brooks was good for that. Mm-hmm. I could call Brooks up, and I said, man, I got a problem. And we started talking. And then Brooks would go all over here. I think I'm in class. I am in class. I'm like, Brooks, I need a thesaurus to figure out the hell you just told me. And then he look, dumb motherfucker, let me tell you something. I said, oh, well, why didn't you say that the first time? But we developed, Brooks would make you think if you're a coach. He's not going to tell you the answer. No. So what I do when I have a few athletes that are now coaches, I said, what do you think? What's your instinct? I remember I told a coach, matter of fact, Llewellyn, he was coaching, and he said, man, I'm just lost. I said, okay, where are you standing? He said, I'm right at the track. I said, go in the middle. He said, why? Let's go in the middle, and then you tell me why. He went in the middle, he said, oh my God, I can see everything here. I said, now go on the other side in the stands. What do you see? I'll make them go the other direction. I said, now go in front of them. Now go behind them. I said, and I try to envision, what does it look like from the top and what does it look like when they hit from the bottom? I said, so you can get that full everything. And you have to use your imagination. That's how you can help them improve. I said, because we're 3D. But are you looking at 3D from the front, from the side, left, right, behind, or top? Now we got drones so you can see how they run from top.
Yeah.
And now they're giving you, you have the step pattern, how much forces you're putting on the ground, your velocity, the vertical forces, horizontal, all these formulas that I watch people talk about, but they forget about how fast are you going down the track.
Yeah.
You can do all the jumps and stuff you want, but how are they? Everybody can, each person, how are you going to help each person move across the track? And I just tell everybody, you're going to have problems with me. I said, why? I said, because what time you get up? Well, I get up around 6 o'clock. I said, okay, so now I know I have to get up a little earlier than you. Well, I'll get up any earlier. Fine. I'll go to bed earlier and get up earlier than you. Now, if you want to compete with that, then fine. That's the only time I'll compete with them. It's not how much I know, it's how much I want to learn.
Yeah.
And the early bird gets that worm. Boy, it gets that worm. You don't sleep in for 15 minutes, good. I'm already up.
So as a coach who has accomplished so much, you've had so many Olympians, world champions, so many athletes that made teams, hardware, world records. Do you feel like you've accomplished everything in your coaching career? Because all athletes, no matter if you get a new athlete tomorrow, they're going to have a goal. They're going to have something they want to accomplish that pertains to them. And you're going to have to be able to facilitate and help them with that, right? But as you, the famous John Smith, do you feel like you've checked off all your boxes and accomplished the things you want to?
No, I haven't. And it's, this very seldom. I shouldn't say that because I don't know. I'm not in anybody's shoes. It's nice to know a calling. I tell people when I was at UCLA, and one day I went to the track, and I'm like, I just quit the job. Fell in love with my passion, and I've never worked a day in my life since then. And people are like, what are you talking about? You quit the job, you left? I said, no, you don't understand. The job means you're going and you can't wait till the bell rings so you can leave. I said, no, my passion. And the passion is not just track and field. The passion is for life. It's at practice, in practice. Yeah. And when you're in practice, your spirit is good. You find ways to motivate you. Like the other day, I have, my knees kill me. But when someone asks me how I'm feeling, I say fantastic and improving. I have my moments too. And I always am reminded that is still more work to do. A lot more. And I'm watching these young kids, these young people run fast and so forth. And we've had them. Back in my day, I had a few. They have challenges because they get to their ceiling, they get all the accolades, they get their flowers real early. But see, their flowers don't have roots. And most of the time, they don't have seeds. So there's nobody planting anything for them. I watch the techniques are bad, the attitudes are bad, and they don't realize that I tell people, you know, assholes can be successful. But what you're going to get, they're going to give roses, but they're going to give you the thorns with the roses.
Yeah.
Like, you can't grab the roses by the stem, you know, and if you try to smell them, they're going to give you the ones that don't smell good.
Through this landscape of track and field, like, what would you want your legacy of track and field to be? You had, like Justin said, you had a lot of accolades and everything else. What would you want people to say about your legacy in track and field?
You know, it's funny because I've never really thought of it, because I'm constantly in a state of improvement. My legacy, if I'm a constant life learner. You know, it's parting with knowledge and wisdom. I'm actually learning, because knowledge is learned and wisdom is earned. And so the only way you can get wisdom is you have to go through the stuff to get to the point where you say, aha, and you have that wise moment. That's the legacy of wisdom, applicable wisdom, where people would say, when you look at Denzel Washington, you know, you don't look at him as just an actor. You look at him as a philosopher, someone that's deeply rooted in morals, philosophy, the love of humanity, and basically how we can love each other, and we can stop wars. You know,
Yeah.
all of us are a part of this. I tell people, when you look and see something on TV and stuff, shout out, send some love to the people. And you know, in LA we got ICE, and we have all these people look like Gestapo. It reminds me when I was a kid back in the 60s, you know, with the watch riots and so forth. Same thing. We went through that. Doesn't have to be. You know, there's enough in this world to feed everybody times over. But you have some of the world, that consciousness, the big world order that has everybody feeling that woman, because you are yellow skin, you're white skin, you're black. Oh, you're too black. Oh, you're not black enough. Oh, that's what we're looking at, as opposed to say, you know what? I like your skin tone. I like yours. I like yours. I like, you know, our history, and fall in love with our process as human beings on this earth, so that we can propagate and bring young people up, so we can stop dropping destruction and start building infrastructure on love and goodwill toward all human beings.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. That's the legacy I want people to look at that. My medium was, you know, coaching. But there was a philosophy that I went through. And I've had my moments. Remember that line I said, don't cross? You know, my toe slipped over on the other side, you know, and you have to be careful. But you got to own it. Yeah. You know, Charles Dutton went in prison, came out, top actor. You know, there are people, Malcolm X, come out, and he's a philosopher. We need to know that there are, when we're rehabilitating people, we need to look at the person and figure out, well, why you like that? Now, sometimes you might not be able to get them, because I didn't create this. I'm here. I'm not here to change you. I'm here to make sure that I can exemplify change. And as long as I can exemplify change, then that's my purpose.
Coach, we truly appreciate everything that you have been for track and field as an athlete, as an amazing coach, and the stuff that you're still doing, because now you are the person that's going to pass on the knowledge and the legacy to the next generation. And we are honored to have you on our podcast, and hopefully this won't be the last time, man. I'm going to let Rod take us out.
Man, we thank you guys for joining us with the legendary Coach John Smith. If you have any last remarks, Coach, that's your camera right there.
I grew up, it was a jazz station, 105.9, and it was a DJ named Jay Rich. A DJ named Jay Rich. And there's two things he would say, and I'm getting some of it right. It came on in the morning. He says, "Welcome to the lion's den, where there's incense and peppermints and strange little happenings." And then there was another one he would say, "If you're walking down the street and you see someone that doesn't have a smile, give them one of yours." Peace out.
We thank you guys so much for joining us. Join us next time at our next guest at Ready, Set, Go!